Hey, how's it going? Boy, I have a treat for you. The people at BESTARC have decided to send me a free, no cost to me, BTC500DP 7th Gen 110 220 volt pilot arc plasma cutter. Now, I went back and forth. I am allowed to give an unbiased review, good or bad. They sent it to me. They're not paying me for this, but I do get to keep this when I'm done. I've never done anything like this with the channel, so this is a treat. So I'm going to unbox this thing. In full disclosure up front, I have never used a plasma cutter. I've never touched a plasma cutter. I even had to Google what a plasma cutter was. But the people at BESTARC have put their faith in me to give it a shot, and I figured, hey, if you're an absolute beginner, you can't beat this thing. I'll include a link down below to this on Amazon, so you can take a look at it for yourself. It has some pretty good reviews. I watched some videos beforehand, so I kind of knew what I was doing a little bit. But first, a little bit about the plasma cutter. It's 50 amps. Pilot arc plasma cutter. It can go on 110 or 220 volt. Has a 60% duty cycle. That's the on versus off time required to keep it cool. 50 to 60 hertz frequency. It has an LED screen display, built-in air regulator and filter. So you do need an air compressor for this. All I have is a small pancake style air compressor. So we'll see how it does with that. Probably pretty realistic conditions if you're working on this in a home shop. And it's a pilot arc, and it has a post-time adjustment, and it has a 2T, 4T touch trigger controls. 2T is pull the trigger, it's on, let go of the trigger, it's off. 4T is pull it, it's on, it stays on, pull it again, and it turns off. And again, there are some safety requirements for this thing, so we'll talk about that. Again, I had to Google it. I wasn't sure how to use a plasma cutter, so we won't let knowledge and common sense stand in the way of progress. So let's get into it and see what we got. So everything comes in this one box, and it is extremely well packaged. Now they didn't spare any expense on the packaging. That's my first impression of this thing. Very well packed, and let's pull this out and put it on the bench and take a look at her. All right, so we get this BESTARC, and it comes with a standard, 220 welding plug. I don't have a 220 outlet here in the garage. Comes with an air hose. Comes with a grounding clamp attached to a grounding wire. Stamped sheet, steel, but it's a lot better than I expected. Comes with the directions. We'll review those. Does come with a 220 to 110 adapter plug. We'll be using that. And it comes with, of course, the torch. See there, it's got a cutting guide on there. Comes with a bag of spare parts. It looks like it has another, I think it's a drag tip. We'll take a look at that. Doesn't come with any extra ceramic cups that I see. And it comes with this handy dandy wrench. So it comes with some Teflon tape for connecting your air connections. Comes with a couple hose clamps, also presumably for the air connections. And it comes with a couple of tips there, you can see that. And it comes with a couple of extra nozzles, and I think these are drag type nozzles. I think based on the videos I've been watching, these 4 grooves in here allow places for the plasma to escape. Drag tip, I think is what they call this. So let's get it together and take a look. All right, so first a look at the back of the machine. Pretty simple. It's got the presumably the air filter here. Looks like it has a small drain for moisture right there, and that's probably also the regulator. Just got a normal air hose fitting. I'll probably just use my air hose rather than the included hose. And again, on-off switch. And it has the plug that comes out. And then we will attach our adapter plug, just like that, and now we can run it off of 110. Let's take a look at the front of the machine. Very satisfying. All right, so here's where we hook up our grounding clamp, and this appears to be where we hook up our cutter. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so according to our directions, we hook the gun into here, and it just hand threads on. We hook this, which they are calling the torch switch. This is called the pilot arc. This one here is a torch switch. And it only goes on one way, and you thread it in. And then here we have just a clamp here. They call it the pilot arc. So we'll go ahead and put that on there. It's got a washer. Let's drop the washer. Pretty simple. Let's plug it in and see what our display looks like. Okay, we've got it plugged in. I don't have anything connected to it air-wise, and I haven't, ground clamp is just sitting over here and the torch is just sitting there. But let's take a look at the display. So we hit the on-off switch on the back. The unit powers on. And we get an EO5 air. I assume, we'll check the manual, we'll assume that's because I don't have an air supply hooked up. EO5, low or no air pressure. So that's what that is. So we can either have air come out, or we can cut. 2T and 4T. And this is PT and PA. PT is post time, 3 to 15 seconds. So after the cut, the torch continues to blow air, keep everything cool, and reduce the wear and tear on your consumables. PA is a pilot arc time, 3 to 15 seconds. You can adjust the duration of the pilot arc. Let's try that here. So let's get this thing hooked up, see how she cuts. Alright, so I'm doing this outside, so I'll re-record this audio. But a couple things, it does not come with any safety equipment. Plasma cutters can be quite dangerous, so you're going to want a couple things. All this I purchased on Amazon. So I have a welding helmet, auto darkening, pair of welding gloves, heavy duty welding apron with long sleeves, Alright, I'll show you the setup that I have here. Again, I apologize for the wind and the shakiness, but I got a sheet of 1/32 sheet aluminum there, just a scrap. I'm going to start with a cut, figure something easy. I bought this clutch portable welding table from Northern Tool yesterday, so I could do this. Didn't have a metal surface I could cut on. And I got some other bar stock, some plate steel for welding that we can practice cutting as well. Then I have over here, I just set it up on a table. I have the BESTARC plasma cutter, and over there I have my air compressor plugged in, and it's charged up to 120 psi right now. I imagine that thing's going to be running the whole time I cut, so we'll see how that works. Alright, so there is a guide on the front of the top of the plasma cutter that tells you the thickness. Right here, the thinnest they have is 3/16 inch metal, and so I'll be using 30 amps, and air pressure is 40 to 50. We'll start with 50 and see what it looks like. Right, we'll turn the unit on, the switch on the back, and you can see we no longer have the, we're at 78 psi. We're going to turn that down. And it said 40 to 50. We're at 50, so we'll push it back in. And for amperage, we want 30 amps. So we'll just dial that switch up to 30 amps. I'm going to start with 2T and cut. Now for the trigger, you have this paddle here. You push up on that and pull down, and you can hear the air going. And the air blows for a few seconds after you're done to help cool off the part. So let's get set up and we'll make our first cut, or at least try anyway. All right, so this is a much cleaner cut. What I did was I dialed down the air pressure to 30. After reading through the instruction manual a little more, you see there's a guide here, and you want to be in the green there. Let's try that. All right, so now I have 1/8 inch bar stock here, steel. So I turned up the air to 40 psi and I turned up the amperage to 35. Now I'm only hooked up to 110, so I won't be able to do the full gamut that this thing can offer, but let's try it. So we do 1/8 inch plate steel. Let's try curve cut. There we go. Not bad. Used a straight edge and got a fairly clean straight cut. I think I need to work on my technique a little bit. All right, that was a lot of fun. So a couple things. I wasn't able to cut through the 1/2 inch steel. You might have saw me leave for a little bit. That's what that was. I kept popping the breaker, going through 1/2 inch. But I cut through 1/8 inch steel plate. No problem at all. It also just made nice cuts in this aluminum, just 32nd inch sheet aluminum. And one of the nice things about having the pilot arc is you can cut through painted surfaces. You can see this is an old edger blade that I had that I don't have the edger for it anymore, but it's painted, and I was going to make a knife or something out of it. It's a chore to cut with the angle grinder. It's hardened. So I just sanded off a little bit here and was able to make pretty short work of painted steel. So if you have rusted or painted material, that pilot arc really does work, and it's pretty effective. I didn't like the little tip that they had, or the guide. I found that just dragging this across worked out pretty good. Yeah, not a whole lot of wear and tear on the part. You can see I got some metal splatter up there, but I think you can get these parts are pretty cheap. A whole set of consumables with a bunch of these nozzles and tips. I think it's $20 on Amazon. I'll throw a link up to that as well. Yeah, so you need this. Why do you need it? Well, first of all, it's compact. And if you don't have room in your shop for this, just convince your wife to get rid of that bread maker you got for your wedding 20 years ago that you never used, because it's about the same size, maybe even a little smaller. And if you've ever used an angle grinder or a Sawzall to cut through metal, you know it's messy, it's time consuming, it's frustrating, and believe it or not, it's expensive. Those discs add up, especially if you've ever tried to cut something like hardened steel bed frames or even something like this. An angle grinder is just a chore, and you saw how quickly and easily the plasma cutter just melted through this metal. And we were even able to get some pretty clean, straight cuts here by using an edge guide. So that's, you know, if you need clean cuts, that'll clean up real quick with an angle grinder, and it won't leave the big mess and won't be as time consuming. Now, it does come with some slag. That's pretty easy to remove with a slag hammer. I don't have one of those. You can chip this off with a hammer. Yeah, this thing is fantastic. I can see me using it quite a bit for starting to weld. I did get a cheap welder. Again, I paid for that with my own money. I'll feature that in a future video. It's one of those flux core MIG welders. So it's pretty messy, but you know, I'm just learning. You know, so you'll see me use this quite a bit, I think, when I start making knives, just to cut out knife blanks out of some lawnmower blades and things like that. It's also great for cutting bed frames. I'm going to make my own welding table out of some bed frames, and that's hardened steel. If you ever try to cut that with a Sawzall or a angle grinder, you know that that's just a chore. So this thing will cut through it like butter. I did have a problem with the 1/2-inch steel, but if you're doing small projects, say you have some automotive work that you have to do, you just have a basic shop with a basic air compressor like I do, this would be great for cutting floor pans out of cars. If you're doing some restoration work, if you need to cut engine mounts, things like that, this is a fantastic tool to add to your arsenal. I really like it. I'm really happy that the BESTARC folks sent me this to try out. Again, this was no cost to me. I'll throw a link down below if you're interested in taking a look. That would really help the channel. I'm not being paid for this, and they said I could say whatever I want, and I want to say some nice things, because this is really a lot of fun. What I didn't show you was the 30 minutes plus of me cutting through just about everything I could find that was metal. It was really a lot of fun. Was able to make some pretty detailed cuts and circle cuts, and I'm going to try my hand at making a metal sign. I think is a gift. We'll see. I got to get a little bit better. The steadier your hand, the steadier the cut. I did have to fool around with the air a little bit to try and get the cleanest cut possible. And working on speed really is an art. How fast or how slow you drag the torch across the surface really is an art. The instruction manual is not bad. It is clearly translated into English, but every question that I had, I was able to understand the instruction manual, which was kind of something I was not looking forward to. Even talk to you why having a plasma cutter is important. What do you do? An introduction to plasma cutting. So this machine really is great for beginners. There's plenty of YouTube videos with this machine and other basic plasma cutting machine videos on how to use them, how to set them up, that I found really helpful. I'll throw some links to some of those videos down below because they really did help me make my first cut. Right out of the box, you're pretty much ready to go. Again, I would recommend not using the included air hose, but hey, if that's all you got, I'm sure it'll work. I did have an air hose, and it fits on a standard air hose fitting from my little pancake compressor. And I have a really small compressor, and this was able to handle small cuts. So again, if you're cutting small things, it's not really that bad. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be after watching some of these professionals cut material with their giant air compressor setup. So yeah, you can do this in a home shop. I would like to have a 220. I think in the future, if we move here, getting a 220 outlet in the shop was definitely going to be a necessity for welding, for plasma cutting, and some of the bigger power tools I have. And I'd really be curious to see some of the videos that have this hooked up to 220 to see what kind of capabilities it has beyond what I can do in my shop. But even for 110, very impressed with the cut. I mean, this is 1/8 inch steel. And it cut through it pretty easily and extremely quickly. An angle grinder or a Sawzall would have taken, a good 5-10 minutes to make this cut. Plasma cutter did it in a couple seconds. So again, thanks to the folks at BESTARC for sending this out. I'll throw a link down below if you want to take a look at it, as well as some of the other videos and products that I purchased. Right out of the box, you will need some safety equipment if you've never used a plasma cutter before. I was able to go on Amazon and purchase everything I need and get that 2-day shipping, so I was able to make this video on time. So the welding apron was really hot, but it did seem to produce a lot of sparks and kept protecting my pants, protecting my shirt. You will need long sleeves and heavy gloves. The welding helmet I bought it. Maybe you could get by with some tinted shades, but that's up to you. I think it does need a shade 5, I believe, looking online for the plasma cutting with the type of material that I was cutting, but your mileage may vary. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please post them down below. As always, thanks BESTARC, and thanks for watching.